The slam of the front door still echoes in my mind, a sharp, decisive sound that severed more than just our conversation. "You smell like the barn, Dad," she'd said, her nose wrinkling with a disdain that felt like a physical blow. My Sarah, my bright, beautiful Sarah, recoiling from the very scent of my livelihood, the land that had been in our family for generations. It wasn't just the smell. It was everything the barn represented to her. Long hours, hard work, a life she desperately wanted to escape. She'd always been a city girl at heart, even growing up surrounded by our fields and animals. Her mother, God rest her soul, had similar aspirations, but she'd found a way to appreciate our simple life, the honest labor that put food on our table. Sarah never did. She craved the hustle and bustle, the perceived sophistication of urban living. So she left, chasing dreams of a high-powered career in a gleaming downtown office. We'd stayed in touch, birthday calls, the occasional holiday visit, but a distance had grown between us, a chasm built brick by brick with unspoken judgments and differing life choices. The farm, my sanctuary, had become a point of contention, a symbol of everything she wanted to leave behind. I understood her ambition, her desire for something more, but her dismissal, that casual cruelty in her voice, it stung. It made the calluses on my hands ache in a new way, a dull throb of paternal hurt. I poured myself into my work, the rhythm of the farm a familiar comfort, the animals' needs a welcome distraction from the gnawing emptiness her absence left. Life on the farm went on, seasons changed, calves were born, crops were harvested, but a part of me remained frozen in that moment, the scent of hay and manure suddenly carrying a bitter tang of rejection. And now, years later, a knock on my door threatened to stir those dormant feelings, a knock that held an unexpected echo of the past. Before I open it, please consider subscribing to my channel for more heartfelt stories. The man standing on my porch was a stranger, yet there was something vaguely familiar about his nervous stance, the way he shifted his weight from one foot to the other. He was dressed in clothes that had seen better days, his face etched with a weariness that spoke of hard times. "Mr. Miller?" he asked, his voice hesitant, almost apologetic. "Yes?" I replied, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. He took a deep breath, his eyes darting around my small front yard, taking in the familiar sights of the farm. "My name is David," he said, finally meeting my gaze. I'm Sarah's husband." The name hit me like a physical blow. Sarah's husband. I'd seen pictures over the years, Christmas cards mostly, a smiling couple against generic holiday backdrops. This man in front of me looked nothing like the confident, well-groomed man in those photos. Life had clearly taken a toll. "David," I repeated, the name feeling foreign on my tongue. 1,000 questions flooded my mind. Why was he here? Where was Sarah? Had something happened? He seemed to read the worry in my eyes. "Sarah's fine, Mr. Miller," he assured me, though his tone lacked conviction. She doesn't know I'm here." My unease intensified. What kind of situation would lead a man to seek out his estranged father-in-law without his wife's knowledge? He hesitated for a moment. Then his shoulders slumped in what looked like resignation. "I need a job, Mr. Miller," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Any job." He looked past me, towards the barn, the very place Sarah had so vehemently rejected. The irony wasn't lost on me. I stood there, stunned, the silence stretching between us thick with unspoken history and present desperation. "A job?" I finally managed to say, my voice betraying my surprise. "Here, on the farm." David nodded, his eyes pleading. I know Sarah." "Well, she wasn't a fan," he stammered, a faint blush creeping up his neck. "But I'm a hard worker, Mr. Miller. I'm not afraid of getting my hands dirty. I'll do anything." His desperation was palpable. I studied him, trying to reconcile the image of Sarah's successful husband with the man before me. His clothes worn, his face gaunt. Life had clearly thrown him a curveball. "What happened, David?" I asked, my voice softening slightly. He hesitated, then let out a long sigh. "The company I worked for, bit downsized, laid off a lot of people, myself included. Sarah, well, She's trying to find something, but the job market, it's tough. He ran a hand through his already disheveled hair. We've been living off savings, but that's almost gone. We're in a bad spot, Mr. Miller. He avoided my gaze, shame evident in his posture. I know this is probably the last place you'd expect to see me, he continued, his voice low. But I don't know what else to do. I need to provide for Sarah, and I remember her mentioning, well, you always seem to need help around here. The image of Sarah wrinkling her nose at the smell of the barn flashed through my mind. The hypocrisy was almost comical, if the situation weren't so dire. A wave of conflicting emotions washed over me. Pity for his situation, a flicker of resentment towards Sarah's past disdain, and a strange sense of vindication. No, that wasn't right. This wasn't about being right or wrong. This was about a man in need, a man married to my daughter. Despite the years of distance and Sarah's rejection of my way of life, she was still my daughter. And this man, however unexpected his presence, was her husband. All right, David, I said, making a decision. I can give you work. His head snapped up, surprise and relief flooding his face. Really, Mr. Miller, thank you. Thank you so much. I held up a hand. Don't thank me yet. It's hard work, long hours, and the pay isn't going to make you rich. And yes, I added, a wry smile touching my lips, you will smell like the barn. He chuckled, a genuine sound that eased some of the tension. I'm prepared for that, sir. Anything is better than, well, than nothing. I nodded. Be here at sunrise tomorrow. Wear clothes you don't mind getting dirty. As he thanked me again, his relief almost palpable, I couldn't help but wonder what Sarah would say if she knew. Would she be furious, mortified, or perhaps, just perhaps, would this unexpected turn of events bridge the gap that had grown between us? Only time would tell. If you're enjoying this story, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel for the next chapters. The next morning, David was waiting at the barn door before the sun had fully risen. He looked eager, almost desperate to prove himself. I put him to work immediately, mucking out stalls, feeding the livestock, the tasks mundane but essential to the rhythm of the farm. He worked diligently, his initial city-softened hands quickly developing blisters, but he didn't complain. He asked questions, listened intently to my instructions, and seemed genuinely willing to learn. I watched him, a cautious optimism growing within me. He wasn't the entitled son-in-law I might have imagined. He was a man humbled by circumstance, willing to swallow his pride and do whatever it took to provide for his wife. As the days turned into weeks, David became an integral part of the farm. He had a knack for fixing things, a practical intelligence that surprised me. He'd always seemed like an office type in the Christmas photos, but out here, covered in dust and sweat, he seemed more real. We fell into a routine, the quiet companionship of shared labor replacing the awkwardness of our initial encounter. We talked sometimes about the farm, about the weather, about the challenges of making a living off the land. He never mentioned Sarah, and neither did I. It was an unspoken understanding, a fragile truce built on the shared work and the unspoken hope for a better future. I found myself appreciating his presence, the extra pair of hands lightening my load, the quiet camaraderie, a welcome change from the solitude I'd grown accustomed to. One evening, as we were finishing up for the day, David hesitated, a nervous energy about him. "Mr. Miller," he began, his voice tentative, "there's something I wanted to ask you." I waited, a sense of apprehension creeping in. Had Sarah found out? Was he planning to leave? "Sarah, she calls sometimes," he said, finally meeting my gaze. "She asks about me, if I've found anything." He paused, then continued. "I haven't told her about this." He gestured around the barn. "About me working here." My heart sank a little. Sooner or later, the truth would have to come out. "Why not, David?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. He looked down at his worn boots. I don't know, I guess I was ashamed. Ashamed that I lost my job, ashamed that I had to come here, to the place she... Well, you know." He looked up, his eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and fear. "I wanted to find something else, something better, before she found out. I didn't want her to think I was a failure. I understood his pride, the desire to maintain a certain image in his wife's eyes. But secrets have a way of festering, and I knew this one couldn't stay buried forever. "David," I said gently, "Sarah loves you. I know my daughter, and beneath that, well, beneath everything, she cares about you. You need to tell her." David finally worked up the courage to tell Sarah about his job on the farm. I wasn't there for the conversation, but he looked like a weight had been lifted when he told me about it the next day. Her initial reaction, he admitted, wasn't great. There was a stunned silence on the other end of the phone, followed by a hesitant, "You're working at Dad's farm." But then something shifted. Perhaps it was the genuine relief in his voice, or maybe the realization of his dedication to providing for them. Whatever it was, her tone softened. She asked questions, not with disdain, but with a curiosity he hadn't heard in a long time. She even asked about the animals, something she hadn't done since she was a little girl. A small seed of hope began to sprout in my chest. Could this be the beginning of a reconciliation, not just between David and me, but between Sarah and the life she had left behind? A few weeks later, David came to me with another request. "Mr. Miller," he said, a hopeful glint in his eyes, "Sarah wants to come visit." My heart skipped a beat. It had been years since she'd last been back to the farm. The thought of seeing her again filled me with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Would she still wrinkle her nose at the smell of the barn? Would the old resentments resurface? Or could this visit mark a new chapter for all of us? This story is far from over. Subscribe now to see what happens when Sarah returns to the farm. The day Sarah was due to arrive, I found myself more nervous than I'd been in years. I busied myself around the farm, trying to appear calm, but my gaze kept drifting towards the driveway. David was equally restless, pacing around the barn like a caged animal. Finally, a car pulled up, and there she was. Stepping out of the sleek city car, she looked both familiar and different. The years in the city had polished her, given her a sophisticated air, but beneath it, I could still see my Sarah. There was a moment of awkwardness as we stood there, a silent acknowledgement of the years and the miles that had separated us. Then she smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes and some of the tension eased. She hugged me, a brief but heartfelt embrace. Then her eyes fell on the barn, and I braced myself for the familiar look of distaste. But it didn't come. Instead, she looked thoughtful, her gaze lingering on the weathered wood and the open doors. David stepped forward, and they shared a hug that seemed to hold years of unspoken worries and renewed hope. As we walked towards the house, Sarah took a deep breath. "It smells different than I remember," she said softly, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. The initial hours of Sarah's visit were cautiously navigated, filled with superficial conversations, catching up on the broad strokes and surface details of our lives, carefully, almost instinctively, avoiding the deeper, more sensitive subjects that lay simmering beneath the surface. It was like tiptoeing around fragile glass. She turned to David, a genuine curiosity now evident in her gaze, and began to ask him about his daily work on the farm. He responded with a newfound quiet confidence, a certain pride in his voice as he spoke eloquently about the daily challenges, the unexpected satisfactions, and the unique rhythms of farming life. He detailed the early mornings, the physical demands, but also the deep satisfaction of working with the land. I watched them interact, a profound sense of quiet pride swelling within me, a warmth spreading through my chest. David, it was abundantly clear, had truly found a purpose here, a tangible connection to the land that seemed to ground him, making him more present, more whole than I'd ever seen him. And Sarah, to my utter surprise, seemed genuinely deeply interested. She asked follow-up questions, listened intently to his answers, her expression thoughtful. Later, she even ventured, tentatively at first, into the barn itself, her nose twitching almost imperceptibly, a faint ghost of her old reaction, but, crucially, without the outright visceral rejection I remembered from her youth. She looked at the stalls, the feeding troughs, the stacks of hay. She asked specific questions about the dairy cows, their names, their temperaments, and about the noisy chickens clucking and scratching in the yard, showing a genuine, burgeoning curiosity I hadn't witnessed in her for decades, since she was a small child, fascinated by the baby chicks. Over the next few sun-drenched days, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift began to occur in Sarah. The city clothes were replaced by more practical attire, jeans and old boots. She found herself naturally helping with some of the lighter, less strenuous chores, scattering feed for the clamoring chickens, carefully collecting warm, freshly laid eggs from the nesting boxes, her fingers brushing against the soft straw. I watched, hidden from her view as she laughed, a genuine, joyful sound, rich and full, as a playful barn kitten chased after a loose feather caught in a shaft of sunlight in the dusty hayloft. It was a sound I hadn't realized I'd missed so profoundly. There were moments of quiet, profound reflection, too, especially as we sat together on the old porch swing in the tranquil evenings, watching the last fiery vestiges of the sun slowly dip below the vast, unending horizon of our fields. The silence between us, once strained and heavy with unspoken resentments, was no longer awkward, but profoundly comfortable, filled now with a delicate sense of tentative reconciliation, a fragile hope for a renewed connection that felt almost miraculous. One particular evening, as the stars began to pepper the inky sky and the cicadas began their nightly chorus, Sarah sat beside me on the porch swing, her gaze fixed intently on the distant, shadowy outline of the tree line. She seemed to be searching for something, a deeper truth. "Dad," she said softly, her voice barely a whisper, imbued with a newfound vulnerability, a raw honesty I hadn't heard from her in years. I think I finally understand." My heart gave a gentle flutter, a ripple of anticipation. I turned my head slowly towards her, surprised by the sudden, heartfelt confession. "Understand what, honey?" I asked, my voice equally soft, careful not to break the delicate spell. She sighed, a deep, weary exhalation that seemed to release years of pent-up emotional baggage, years of resistance. "This, your life, the farm. It's not just a smell, is it? It's a part of you. The very best part of you. It's a legacy, a living thing, a connection to something vital and real." Her voice caught slightly, thick with emotion, and she blinked rapidly to clear her eyes. Sarah's profound words hung in the still evening air, a soothing balm to old, festering wounds, a melodic echo that seemed to finally heal the deepest hurts, a warmth spreading through my chest. "It is," I replied, my voice thick with emotion, barely able to control the sudden tremor that threatened to betray the overwhelming gratitude I felt. "It's undeniably hard work, relentless work at times, but it's honest work, truly. And it has, against all odds, given us a good, fulfilling life. A life rooted in something real, something that lasts." She nodded slowly, her eyes now glistening with unshed tears, reflecting the last fading light of the twilight sky, mirroring my own emotions. I was so utterly focused on what I thought I wanted, on desperately escaping what I mistakenly perceived as less, as beneath me, as unrefined, that I never truly took the time, never truly paused to appreciate the profound richness of what was right here, all along waiting for me. Her gaze then shifted to David, who had been quietly watching our interaction, a hopeful, gentle expression on his tired but content face, a silent testament to his own journey. "And you," she said to him, her voice filled with an undeniable affection, a loving, appreciative smile gracing her lips. "I'm so incredibly proud of you, David, for doing what you needed to do, what was truly necessary to provide for us, even if it meant this." She gestured with an open hand, encompassing the entire farm, its barns, its fields, its very essence. "It's more than just a job, isn't it? It's a calling." David nodded, his eyes meeting hers, a deep, unspoken understanding passing between them, a shared bond forged in unexpected circumstances. He gently took her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers, a tender, reaffirming gesture. "It is. It's so much more. I've learned an incredible amount here, Sarah. Mr. Miller has taught me, well, more than just the mechanics of farming, more than just how to mend a fence or birth a calf. He looked at me then, a genuine, profound warmth radiating from his eyes, a depth of gratitude that transcended mere words. He's taught me about unwavering perseverance, about the inherent, undeniable value of honest, back-breaking work, about confronting challenges head-on with integrity, and about what truly, profoundly matters in life. He's taught me how to be a better man, a more grounded man. Sarah, her face glowing with a quiet strength, a newfound clarity, finally stood up, gracefully taking both David's hand and my own, bringing our 3 hands together in a powerful, symbolic clasp, a circle of family finally complete. Maybe this city girl could actually learn a thing or two as well, she said, her voice light, infused with a playful glint in her now clear, unburdened eyes, a promise of a future yet unwritten, a willingness to embrace a path she once rejected. As the 3 of us stood there, united hand in hand, the setting sun casting long, tranquil shadows across the familiar, fertile fields, painting the sky in hues of deep orange and purple, I felt a deep, abiding sense of peace I hadn't experienced in years, perhaps not since Sarah was a small child, joyfully running barefoot through these very same fields. The enduring scent of the barn, once a painful symbol of division and deep-seated familial strife, now seemed to carry a potent, unmistakable aroma of renewed hope, of profound healing, and of a fractured family, slowly but surely finding its way back home, back to each other, to the heart of what truly matters: connection, understanding, and unconditional love.